Crazy Dave was a guy that ended up coming onto my tier when I was about 4 to maybe 5 years into my bit. Mid-20s at this point. I'm still pretty young and learned a lot in these couple of years that I've been locked up. One of the things that you learn is to be wary of people coming onto your tier that you haven't seen before. You got to watch out, vet these people, see who they are. A lot of times I will watch a person for several months before I'd even speak to them. And it wasn't like that at the beginning. When I first got locked up, people would talk to me. A lot of times I would reciprocate, talk back to them, hey, how are you? Once you get into it a little bit longer, you're very walled off because you don't know who's coming on the block and what kind of nonsense they may or may not be bringing with them. So Crazy Dave was one of these types, and he came in right about the time that I was vetting people a lot more stringently. Like I'd see someone come on a tier, and I'd just watch out for them. Just watch them, see what they're made of, see who they associate with. Do they gravitate towards, weak people? Do they gravitate towards nasty characters who are just always out bent on some kind of game or hustle that's always trying to take advantage of another person? Just unsavory characters. There's a ton of them in there. So I'm watching this guy, and I can tell off the bat something ain't right. The way he was just shifty with his eyes, the way his jaw kind of slacked down and popped to the side like he was all crooked out. I didn't know what was up with this dude. First I thought it was just some kind of PCP residual, something to that effect. I still don't know. I don't know if he was dropped on his head. I don't know if he just liked to bang his head into metal doors for fun. I mean, this guy was whacked out. It's Crazy Dave, and I refer to him as that because that is what he was known as. The guards called him that. The other guys on the tier called him that. I'm pretty sure his mom called him Crazy Dave. When you think about it, this guy was like to the root whacked out. So he ends up moving on the tier, moves upstairs, and I'm on the first level. He's on the second, and he was above me, but one cell over. So, because I would hear him up there talking sometimes, you get real used to your surroundings, where noises are coming from, who's talking to who, and don't be ear hustling people, but pay attention too, because knowledge is power within the joint. So he moves up top, I'm down bottom. I usually mind my own when I'm out in the weight pit. I got a few guys that I'd work out with, like that were my buddies. We would work out together. You can't just hop into any old weight circle. You're going to have some that are just, you'll have the Bloods one day, we'll get the squat rack. And then it's pretty much off limits until they're done with it. Or you might have the Muslims. They'll be over there and they got the incline bench. Or you might have the Odinists over here doing clean and jerks, with whatever bars that they got. So people come in, they'll stake a claim to the weights that they want to use that day, and they'll pretty much be cordoned off. You won't be able to use those weights unless you're allowed access because, you carry yourself in a particular way, or you're within their ranks, one of that group. So a lot of guys I would work out with, we were all pretty much unaffiliated. I had a couple floaters that would pop through, but it was one of those, loose-knit group of fellas who could just get in and hey man, let's go work out today. We weren't clicked up. I wasn't in a gang. I didn't see the need to do it. I know a lot of states there is a pretty much essential nature to getting clicked up with your own, whether it's your race or whether it's your affiliation. But luckily for me in Maryland, it was not like that. So I was able to talk to black guys, Mexicans, whatever. That's really all we had was white, black, Mexican. Maybe a couple of Asian guys, very, very few. So it wasn't a heavy race card thing where I was at, which was nice, because I made a lot of friends of opposite race and very good guys. So we're out there working out in the weight pit, and Crazy Dave was one of those ones who could just kind of silently float station to station. Because everybody knew he was whacked out, but he kept to himself. So a lot of those guys, it's like, all right, as long as he doesn't disrespect. He acts, right in the pit, doesn't throw the weights around, come over here and act like some kind of, just flat out bonehead. Then let him in. See how it works. And if not afterwards, hey man, we full. So he's going through his interview process, as it were, to go around and getting all the different stations. And he was a floater. So Dave will come around. I work out with him every once in a while. And you don't usually offer a spot to people because sometimes people will try to drop a weight on you, or they'll mess with you, or something of that nature. So getting a prison spotter is it's a pretty how would you call it? It's a thorough process where you really have to know that these people are okay, or you have to trust them just a little bit. And trust might not even be the word, but to not distrust entirely. So Dave asked me one time, he comes over, we're lifting weights, we're on a flat bench. He goes, "Hey man, you give me a spot?" I said, yeah. I said, "You want me to take any weight off, or just keep my fingers there?" "Just keep your fingers there." I said, "All right." So he gets down, he's repping out. And the dude's a little guy. I think he's about 5'5", maybe. Little light-skinned dude, light-skinned black guy, and he was not stocky. He was a decent size, but he was not like some big, beefed-out dude. I've seen a lot of little guys in there that look like bowling balls because they're as wide as they are tall. And they're pretty powerful when it comes to certain weights. Well, this dude was a little guy. He was not big. You didn't expect a lot from him. But this is when you knew he had that country crazy strength, because he could put some numbers up and he would just pop through it like it was nothing. And I'm looking at the guy. I was like, oh my goodness, appearances can be deceiving. So I'd spot him, and I was one of the only people that within our group that he would let near him on a spot. I guess he just realized that I was not out for advantage taking. I wasn't coming after him with some kind of angle. People can recognize when you're just trying to do your time and do it in a pretty reserved manner. You just want to do your time and not let other people come in and really just make it just chaotic. So I think he recognized that in me, and I recognized the crazy in him. So this cat, man, we started working out, and he had an issue about him where he couldn't maintain eye contact with anybody. Like it was almost like his mind just wouldn't allow it. And I figured it out. I cracked the code. It was in the winter. We're up in the mountains. It was cold. It was real cold. I mean, we're talking like 20-something degrees. It's got wind chill blowing, and it was even snowing a little bit. So there was only like 6 of us out in the yard because it was one of these just bitter, cold mountain days. And I just bundled up, went out there in my gloves, was working out, and Crazy Dave was there. So I said, "Hey man, what you getting into?" "Oh, I'm doing this. You mind spotting me?" "Yeah, no problem." So I come over, and in between spots, we're standing up, and we're just sitting there with our drink or whatever, a little coffee you bring out, just sipping on it out there, just talking, back against the wall. I'm back against the wall. He's right next to me, back against the wall. Just talking, "Man, what's for chow tonight?" Real surfacey kind of how's the weather stuff. I said, "I don't know, something disgusting." He's like, "Yeah." So he starts to talk to me more and more. And this particular day, I cracked the code of Crazy Dave, how to speak to this guy. And everyone picked up on it later on. They said, "How did you do this?" And this is how I did it. When I would talk to him, when I would speak, say he would look away. He would always avert his eyes like this when I'd be speaking to him. And then as soon as I get done, he'd go to look at me. And if I held contact with him, if I held eye contact, he got jittery. So when he would be listening, he would look this way. And then as soon as I'd finish up, he would look over to me to start speaking, say his part of the conversation. And I realized right then, I said, oh, this is the method with this guy. So I would look over here, and he would talk to me. And as soon as he'd get done, he would turn his eyes, and I'd look back to him. So it was like this, it was a really weird eye perspective thing that you had to do. And it really wasn't that hard to figure out once you understood it. It was like, oh, okay. And when I told a couple of my buddies that I ate with, they're like, that's how you speak to him. All right, because this guy, he gets real wound up. And he did. So I figured out how to talk to Crazy Dave, and it was a weird eye contact, like seesaw, pretty much. I don't know where it came from, but hey, man, you're not going to change a lot of these people or get them to do what you're doing. Sometimes you just got to meet people where they're at. And that's, I think, why we got along, because I had respect for him, even though he was whacked out of his mind. And, he would talk to me a little bit. I think people saw that, and they're like, man, such and such can talk to Crazy Dave. They're like, he must be crazy too. And they would ask me about it over time. So he was on the tier for about 6 months. He had a pretty short time on my block. And so I'd talk to him, he'd talk to me, we'd lift weights. It's good to have a crazy friend sometimes, because it just, people will think twice. If somebody's thinking about coming up and carrying you, they might be like, man, no. He's over there kicking with Crazy Dave, so that little country strength maniac ain't got nothing to lose. So it's like, okay, all right. Who you hang out with is a big deal in prison. Don't hang out with sex offenders, tree jumpers, rapists, any of these skin charges. That's the kind of stuff that'll get you jammed up. So crazy people, if I'm not like eating with the guy, making hookups, playing cards with him, nothing like that, but in the weight pit, it's a whole different animal. So Crazy Dave was on the tier one night, and this is after I cracked the code, and I was like, okay, I know how to talk to him now. So this allowed me to jump into other workout stations as well over time. Like, his access got me access to weights when other people couldn't go to those specific groups. And part of that is skin color. And the fact that he was cool with me, I was able to work out with a lot of black guys. I'd be one of the only white dudes in the black guy circle at times lifting weights, just because of how you carry it. And if they see that you know how to deal with one crazy person and understand them, they see that you're not a total clown. That's the beginning of learning about Crazy Dave. He didn't really bother anybody, kept to himself for the most part. But he liked to smoke, smoke cigarettes. And at this point, tobacco was outlawed in the system. It was a contraband item. It was something that you could not have without getting sent to lockup, or if at the very least you're getting a ticket and you're going to get cell restriction or something of that nature, depending on how much you had. I mean, if you had like one little tiny roll up or something like that, they're probably just going to give you 10 days cell restriction, which you can just go to chow and get showers, and that's it. It's kind of like you're grounded, but they don't send you straight to the hammer. And I mean, if you got weight, they're going to send you to the hammer. You're going to ad seg or disciplinary seg until they sort out what your punishment is going to be. So Crazy Dave liked to smoke. He was in the cell above me on the tier and one cell over. And it's Friday night. Friday night, there was usually somebody got their cell tossed. I think it was just something that the guards, they had it was almost like a routine. Excuse me. And like a routine where they would come around, Friday night cell toss. It would happen. I've had it happen to me a couple times. It's no fun. They come in, they root all your stuff. They go through everything. It's a mess. And then you got to spend the rest of the night putting it back together. But it's just, it comes with the territory. So I heard him going up one night because you hear the keys jingling. When you hear keys, you know that the officers are walking around. So there's big, giant sets of keys right there. And I heard him going up top, and I knew they were shaking down. I remember it was Friday night because every Friday, my reward to myself was to make a personal hookup that I would slap together. And man, that thing was good. So I'd say it was my reward to myself every week for making it through, and not ended up catching a ticket, catching a charge, or going to lockup, getting moved out of the unit, losing a job, anything like that. That can set you back in your time frame for your release date. So this was my thing to myself, and I would do that. I'd make my little hookup in the cell, and I'd kick back, and I'd try to watch a movie. This was my treat every week, every Friday. So I knew it was Friday night. I knew it was Friday, and Crazy Dave was getting his cell tossed because I heard him go up there. And as I'm as I'm listening to the keys open up, I'm hearing a little bit of talk and everything going on. You know, like I said, not ear hustling, but paying attention. And I can hear starts to be a ruckus, like a whole commotion starts to shake down up top. And I hear keys running back and forth. And everyone in prison knows the sound of running keys. That means something happened. Either the police are fighting somebody, trying to grapple with them, or they're running off to a code. When they call code, 1010, housing unit 3, B tier, top floor. You know, we got a disturbance, whatever. And you'll hear code. You just hear keys converge from all over the jail. So I'm hearing keys run around. At this point, I put my hookup down, and I'll pop off top of the bunk. I go over and I'm listening by the door. I'm trying to look up because we got a small slat for a window and a crack in the door that I can see all the way down to the front of the tier. Now, I heard a large commotion, keys running in circles, some stuff getting knocked around, and then I hear it start running down towards the front of the tier. Now, the stairs from up top come down, and then at the very front of our tier, there's a set of showers. You go in and you press a button, and the shower water comes on. It'll run for 2 or 3 minutes at a time. You just hit the button again. You don't get to adjust the temperature or anything like that. You just press it and you get what you get. And so it's got like these meat curtain lockers, like those plastic slats that you'll see, like if you're walking through like a deli or something. And that was your shower curtain. So it was towards the front of the tier that I heard him start running from up top. And at this point, I'm craning my neck. I'm turkey necking, looking, trying to check down this little crack in the cell towards the front, and I can see someone running down the steps, and it's crazy, Dave. I mean, he's fighting the police. He's fighting the police. I mean, it was not a surprise, but now I wish I had my popcorn, you know, like the Michael Jackson in the comments section, just eating the popcorn, watching, like, here we go. This is going to be a good one. So he's running down the steps, and the prison guard has him by the back of the shirt. He's got him grabbed up, and Dave is just running, ripping out of it. He's ripping out of this shirt. And he gets to the bottom of the steps, and his shirt's getting ripped off, and the whole time, guard is spraying him in the face with a pepper spray, a mace. He's shh. I mean, you can smell it all the way down the tier. That stuff is powerful, and it'll paint your skin a different color. It'll put like an orangish kind of tint on it. And so I'm watching him get blasted, and he's just ripping through his shirt with his crazy strength. The shirt rips off of his body like some incredible Hulk transformation scene. And he's covered in mace, and the guard's spraying him, and now he's just holding the shirt and the mace trying to hit him. This was one of my favorite moments all time of prison. Dave runs into the shower. You hear him hit the button, the water comes on. He sprays the mace off of himself with the running shower. And after about 6 or 7 seconds, I see the meat curtains flop open. He goes, ding, ding, round 2. And he goes out and he starts piecing this guard up. I was like, whoa! And I'm giving a play-by-play to my cell buddy. And I'm like, no, this is crazy. Dave just said, ding, ding, round 2. And he came out. He was like, you sprayed the mace off? I said, yeah, man. He went in the shower, hit the button, sprayed him off. He popped out, said, ding, ding, round 2, and proceeded to just duke this guard up. And at this point, I mean, they'd already called code. I think they called it when he was up top running around, scrambling. And by this time, he had already gotten the mace off of him, shirt's ripped off. He's looking like some kind of caveman who just is fighting a T-Rex. And he comes out, punches the guard up, knocks him around, because, I mean, what are you going to do with this guy's kind of, you know, just berserker strength? So here they come. They converge into the front of the tier. The officers they had to put like 5 up on top of him. And then they put him down on the ground. They got knees in his back. They're all holding him down. He's writhing like a fish on the floor, hooting and hollering. And they ended up handcuffing him behind his back. And they had to pick this dude up like they were carrying a coffin almost. Like they picked him up on all corners, you know. and they scooped him up into the air, and as they're walking out the door with him, he's yelling and screaming, doing his shifty eyes, going, "They tried to kill me! They tried to kill me!" I was like, oh, this guy is crazy. Crazy Dave. He's crazy. So they end up carrying this guy out, shirtless. I'm sure he's still burning from the mace. And that was the last I saw of him. I think they sent him straight to Supermax, because when you go in, you ding round 2 after spraying off the mace in the shower. I mean, that's some pretty clever thinking on your toes kind of stuff. So Crazy Dave was gone. I didn't see him after that. He ended up, like I said, pretty much went to Supermax, because my job detail, I went over towards Lockup a lot. I would always holler out the football scores, the playoff scores of the guys. They'd always shoot out the window, "Hey man, holler at such woman in Unit 3. Yeah, all right. I pass messages walking and talking, but I wasn't flying no kites, because a lot of times they try to put their drugs in it and pass it on, and then I'm the stool pigeon that gets caught, you know what I mean? Moving your sack for you, making you some money. So I was in communication with a lot of those guys, and I said, "Man, what's Crazy Dave?" I said, "He ain't come over here." I said, "You sure, little guy from Housing Unit 1? I said, "Nah, man." And they told me, a little bit later on, that they're pretty sure he got shipped off to Supermax, because we didn't see him ever again. But yeah, he was one of the wildest characters that I came across when I was locked up, and I was glad that I made, I wouldn't say quite friends. I know I used that word earlier. I'm just trying to think of a better way. In prison, you're not really a friend with everybody, but if you're not an enemy, I guess it's kind of the same-ish, like how you would look at it on the streets. But he was one that I was very glad that I figured out his wacky eye contact method, and I didn't have any problems with, because I didn't want to get dinged by this guy. I mean, he was just relentless. I mean, he was like the sober version of PCP running around. That was one of the wilder stories that I'd even heard of, and the fact that I had kind of a front row seat to it, I'll never forget. I hope you all enjoyed this story. This is a true story. This doesn't need to be embellished, made up, or fabricated in any type of way. You don't have to with people like this running around giving you entertainment for days. And as always, the wise man doesn't get himself into what the smart man has to get himself out of.